Thank you, Marshall. I don't think I'll be singing because I like all these people. So, but good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the October 12th, 2022 CALPADS Q A. My name is Paul Higgins. I'm a data analyst working at CSUS supporting CALPADS. Some announcements this week. Let's see, yesterday, we received an email saying that the system documentation has been updated. So the CALPADS code set, CFS, both the Word and the Excel version, extract specifications and valid code combos were updated, and all of those are available on the CALPADS system documentation page now. Also, a second message went out stating that access to CALPADS is going to be limited to the geographic United States. So that work will be done, I don't exactly remember when, but you won't be able to log in when you're in the south of Spain on your vacations. Do we have any bug or other system updates that we need to go through?
Yeah, I have a couple updates, Paul.
Okay.
This October 22nd, Paul. You can't access CALPADS outside of the US on October 22nd.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I had meant to pull that email up and failed to do so beforehand.
Okay, so you should see my spreadsheet.
And we do?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And these are a few things that have been checked in for the next Tuesday release. There's more in the backlog. A lot of the work they're doing right now, though, is getting the certification data discrepancies ready. So less emphasis on bugs, more on changes that are coming for those. So I do expect a few more to be added. I did want to talk about a little bit about what went in yesterday and what did not. So we are up to date on our known issues list as of right now. And so we have several fixes that went in yesterday. And one that didn't get included, but I wanted to talk about it with you guys. 6373, that we're getting these CERT 164 errors fatal on programs that didn't get closed out. And the error is actually working correctly. The problem was more about the system didn't consistently auto-close program records for students who exited. It's supposed to do that automatically for you, and in some cases it did, in some cases it didn't. And what I wanted to say about that is we are asking for the database analyst to do a data cleanup on that. So for any students who exited from your LEA last academic year and still have open NSLP program records, that we will close those out on your behalf. But in the meantime, you're stuck with that 164 error. And you're welcome to close them out if you'd like. But if you have other things you'd rather be working on, that's fine. We will be taking care of that for you. And then the last thing I wanted to point out, since the launch back in April, we've been doing releases Tuesdays between 12 and 1 p.m. And as of yesterday, that's switching to Tuesdays at 7 a.m. So that's great for us. We get some fixes in a little bit earlier in the day. And if they are going to have an outage, they will let you know ahead of time. So a lot of times they can push out the release without any downtime for the system. That's all I had, Paul.
Perfect, thank you. And the last thing I had was the, I believe the SACE conference is going on, which Brandy is attending, so she will not be with us today. So some of your more Brandy-oriented questions may be directed to a service desk request. So with that said, let's move on to the actual meeting chat and get through the questions. So at 3:01, Q1 from Mary Masters, and my screen just flipped, hold on. Q1 from Mary Masters, when a new CALPADS student home language survey shows English, 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 other for the 4 questions. The other is the question, what language is most often spoken by the adults at home? Can we code this student as EO in this case?
I think that's what is a local decision, how you interpret the HLS, I think. And there's also a program office, the English language program office at the Department of Ed, that maybe send that question to them or send in a service ticket, and we'll see how Brandy answers it.
And Joanne Rollins, 301 Q1. When does the Fall 2 submission window open? The CALPADS calendar is showing October 5th through February 24th, but the Fall 2 submission is not listed on the CALPADS certification status LEA approval module. And in previous years, the Fall 2 window did not open until January.
Good point. We probably should have changed that to January because that's when the window opens for the actual official start, where we would start generating the snapshot revisions for Fall 2. Is going to be the beginning of January. It's like that first day back in January, whatever that day is. I'll tell you in a moment. So it's likely to be the 3rd, January 3rd.
Great. Thank you, Martha.
And maybe why they had it here is because you can submit the data now. It's just we're not running revisions until January 3rd, which I think was in one of the flashes. So we'll alert CDE to their calendar, see if they are up for changing that.
All right. Natasha, 301 Q1. My SIS produced a SINF file with the report run date in place of the student enrollment date. I didn't catch it before submitting the file to CALPADS, and now I have students with their original shell demographic line and a full demographic line dated 10/5/2022. Is there any way to fix this? You could use that exact same file and assign it as a delete transaction, remove all of those erroneous records, redate the transactions in the SINF record, and then resubmit it. And that should get you back to where you need to be, right? And to code it as a delete transaction in the transaction type field, which is the second field in any batch file, you just place a D in that field and it codes it as removing whatever is described in that field or in that record. And if you need help with that, open a service desk ticket and put my name on it and I'll help you walk you through that. Terry, 301 Q1, will CALPADS close FRPM program records for the academic year 21-22, or will we need to do it? Angela did discuss that when talking about that CERT 164 error. If you do it, you'll get there faster, but if you have other things to be doing, we will get to it. Kathy, 301 Q1, students are getting the GER5 error on eligibility SPRG records for the dates after the E155 code, but before the enrollment start date. Is this working as designed? It was our understanding that eligibility programs could have dates before the enrollment dates.
That was my understanding too.
Yeah.
But if they have an exit date, because I think it's in the context of that E155, if they put an exit date that's beyond the, the program end date beyond that E155, that causes a GER5.
I would agree with you, Karen. That's what I've been dealing with for the GER5s that I've dealt with this week, is even if it's an eligibility program, yes, you can date it prior to the beginning of the enrollment for that academic year, but if you try and close it after you have exited the student using a date even a day after, you're going to get a GER5 because you can't close the record outside of your enrollment window. You can close it on the date of your exit, but if you exit the student, then exit the record using the following day, it's not going to work. So there's that.
Maybe they're trying to resolve that CERT 164, Angela. They're trying to close the NSLP records.
I've seen a combination of different reasons why, but yeah, that could be one of them.
All right, Barbara, 301 Q1. I have a student who graduated on 9/29/22 and is being counted on my 1.1 enrollment count. Is this an error? Well, I'd need to actually look at the student's SSID or CALPADS record to see what's there and how it's coded. But if they graduated on 9/29 and did not have an open enrollment on 10/5, then they should not be on your 1.1 and 1.2, which is the detail of the 1.1.
Unless they did an ODS, right? And I don't know.
Well, then they would have had to have run it as of 9/29.
That's true. Yeah.
Angela at 301 Q1, can you please go over what the checkbox on the SSID extract request screen on the extract page means? Checkbox to include SSID record of only the most recent enrollment. What is only the most recent enrollment? Well, let's get to that screen and take a look.
Yeah, extracts and SSID extracts.
I believe the that is supposed to select only the most recent enrollment if they had multiple enrollments within the window you specified. So in that date range, if you said from January 1st through June 30th, and you had selected all the schools, and then you said, oh, select only the most recent enrollment, it would pull up the most recent enrollment in that date range at that school. So if they had been in and out of Aloha Elementary 4 times in that window, it would only pull the most recent enrollment. It wouldn't give you all 4 enrollments. Did I describe that accurately?
Makes sense to me. I thought, and Kyron, do you recall if it's in our user manual of how to create the different filters of the SSID extract? Is it in our user manual?
It is there, Martha.
Okay.
You can plug that into the chat box. That'd be great.
So it gives the record layout, but does it talk about what the most recent?
It's further down.
So,
Step
there you go.
7.
Step 7. There we go.
So it doesn't really
Explain.
explain the as much as what Paul said, but
God, how often have I heard that? But yeah, I believe that that is an accurate rendition of what that indicator is there for, that if there are multiple enrollments at the same site in the same specified date range, it's only going to give you the most recent, not all of them. So you're not going to have a duplicated list. You'd only have a
Unduplicated.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Melissa, 301 Q1. The EL coordinator is asking me if we are required to report ed services for TA classes.
Do they get credit for their TA classes? I mean, typically, teacher's assistant, it's not in an instructional class. So I think sometimes that's what Brandy asks. You know, are they being instructed? Are they getting credits for it? So I don't know, though, if CALPADS is smart enough to distinguish. It just knows you have a student that's in EL and you put them in a course. I don't know if CALPADS knows that they're a TA in the course or not. And we exclude it from, you know, needing a LIP.
No, I'm not certain either. So I think that is a good Brandy question. But I think you've applied Brandy's logic pretty well there. All right, Fabiola, 302 Q1. Hello, report 1.17 no longer has the option of selecting age eligibility. The title now includes LCFF in it. Unfortunately, the total enrollment column includes kindergarten students who are not yet LCFF eligible, born after 2/8/18. The 1.18 report also includes these non-LCFF eligible students. I did not find this discrepancy in the known issues. Do you know when this will be corrected?
So that is a new change to report 117. It no longer has the age eligibility. That got moved to report 1.1, and we talk about that in the training. If it is true that it's including a student that turns 5 after February 2nd, then that is a bug, and you would be the first to report it, Fabiola. If you send in a ticket, we will investigate.
And it's also, this is Paula, described in Flash 240.
Thank you, Paula.
Thanks, Paula. Tammy, 302 Q1. Do LIP records need to be end dated yearly or only when the student changes sites? they are part of the group of records that can remain open from year to year, but if the student changes sites, you will need to create it at the new site and end date it at the old site. Those program records are site specific, campus specific.
You check with your SIS vendor because they may automatically close them every year. So check to see if what your SIS vendor does.
All right, Angela, I see your Q2. If you use a VPN, will you still be able to access CALPADS? Did you know that? Well, as long as you're not trying to VPN in from Venice, but if you're VPNing and you're just using domestic servers, you should still be okay. Don't know about those Canadian servers, but never know.
Yeah, you know what? There was some chatter on the listserv about VPNs, and I forwarded it to our technical person, and he had a lot of different scenarios for when it may or may not work. So we are developing an FAQ on that. So we can try to address that there.
Thank you, Paula. Colleen 303 Q1. I need to change the enrollment date for a student, but can't create a secondary enrollment in online maintenance. I get a SENR0178 start date mismatch. As I recall, the workaround was to create a secondary enrollment with the correct date, delete the first enrollment, then make the secondary enrollment a primary. Am I misremembering, or has functionality changed? No, it sounds like the right guidance, that if you have the wrong start date on your primary and it's the only enrollment in there, you create a secondary using the correct date at the same school of attendance. Then you delete the original, and then you change the secondary to primary. So if that's not working, we would need to know about that and to have you open a service desk ticket, including that job ID, so we can look at it and troubleshoot that with you. Karen 303 Q1. When a student with disability leaves us and parents provide a PSA, I'm not sure PSA, should we automatically enroll these students in our private school group? Are we required to still provide services? I'm going to defer to anybody in the SPED section on that one.
I think they're all at the SACE conference, Paul, and even Alex isn't on, and so they must be having a session right now.
Please open a service desk ticket with that question so we can look into that and get you the answer. Julie 304 Q1. At our alternative school, we have some teachers that are hourly at will. How should these teachers be reported when we were reporting their FTE? Does this affect years of service numbers? Years of service numbers increase automatically each year that they're employed. Pure and simple, whether they work for a day or for 12 months. And when you're reporting their FTE, you're reporting what they work. So if they're at will and their hours fluctuate, weekly, take an average or report what was happening on census day. I think the general guidance has been to just look at their employment history, see if they work an average of 10 hours a week or 30 hours a week, and include that. It doesn't have to be down to the precise decimal on that. You can estimate the FTE percentage based on a range, and you can average that out. Chrissy 304 Q1. Aries is our SIS, and they have our extracts hard-coded to pull N for the distance learning indicator if we submit a section as 24 college credit or 23 dual credit. We are unable to find any CALPADS documentation indicating it is allowable to submit a section as distance learning yes if it is also college credit or dual credit. Is distance learning allowable? And if so, we need specific documentation to refer Aries to in order to have them update their programming logic. I was previously referred to Flash 187, but it does not directly answer my question.
don't think we had any restrictions on it. Sometimes we talked about this in the quarterly meetings. We've had slides on this, and it was also, I thought, in fall too, where we talk about how do you use the non-standard, right? Isn't that what 23 and 24, the non-standard instructional level? So Chrissy, I think we need a ticket to do you justice and dig into it, find out if there is something official.
Alrighty, Carla 305, Q1 for fall 2. If we have a vacancy and we hire a teacher after census day on 10/10, do we report the substitute under that vacancy or the new permanent teacher? I believe it would have been the substitute because the teacher's SDEM record would not have begun until after census day. So yeah, they would not have been employed on the reporting period. So you're going to have to report the vacancy, whoever was in the classroom on that date. And Karen, I see your Q2. 305. Julie 305 Q1. I'm getting a GERS 7 for job assignment code 0124 submitted outside the effective date range. The error list says it is not inactive, but the valid codes say that the last academic year is 1819. Is there another code I should be using for non-instructional special ed?
You know, we let Brandy memorize all of those rules, so we would have to go digging. So this is about job assignment code. So
can we pull up
the code sets?
Yeah, let's pull up the code set and see what it says about 0124.
Is that a staff assignment? Yeah.
All right, so 0124. It ended on June 30th, 2019.
So this is definitely, let's see what's available for non-classroom based support. So if we only look at, there's still quite a bit.
Yeah, but what Gary did was he set the filter on that to show only the NA value for the end date, and so that's only showing the active codes at the moment. So if you can do that in the code set, that limits your search parameter considerably. So I mean, now you're down to what, 40 of them, 45 of them, something like that.
Also,
so
maybe
a special ed administrator. So if we look for, oh, that could be one of them, the other, right? 0137.
there is a 6029, Martha. Special ed. Oh, this is a manager. Is it? And it's an admin position. Is it? Are they
She has
reporting
the word administrator on there. Instructional, non-instructional special ed administrator. And I guess if we look at the old code, what is comparable to 0124, right? What did that get mapped to? It's admin special ed.
Uh, 0124. I'm looking at the crosswalk that was done for the retired course code mappings for 1920 from the system documentation page, and it says 0137 is the recommended new code.
There we go.
All right.
Where was that mapping, Paul? Is that on their website too?
It's on the CALPADS system documentation page at the very bottom under the title Retired Course Code Mapping. and it's dated 29 October 2019. Yep, there it is. All right, that was Julie. Now we're on to Sean. Q1 at 3:05. In the valid code combination states a course is not valid for elementary school, the standard grade level range. Can we still use it if we mark it not content standard aligned and it passes in the course file? Any other implications?
Probably Brandy knows best if there's other
Yeah.
implications, Sean.
Yeah, I was trying to think, would they get gigged for a CalSAS finding or anything else, but I don't know. Sean, you may want to put a ticket in on that so we can get over to Brandy so she can get that definitively answered for you, because we're not certain. Chris Holloway, 3:05. For us, the CERT 164 was happening for students that did not have a covering SENR enrollment. So you have orphaned program records out there, FRPM records out there. That will be more difficult to take care of. So if you would have,
I think maybe what she was saying, like what we were saying, the E155 happened on June 15th and they're trying to end it on June 30th. So you don't have the enrollment overlapping the program.
I see.
I think maybe that's what she was referring to.
I like the way you're reading it. That makes life easier then, because all you have to do is change the date. But yeah, if they're orphaned because you deleted the enrollment for whatever reason last year or whatever, but you didn't get the program records out and they're showing as open, that's going to be a problem. And it usually requires having to, open up a new record, in the academic year, blah, 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 and just go through it. And through the whole process of recreating enrollment data to reclaim ownership, to be able to delete that data, then deleting that enrollment documentation that you created to make sure that the record is still correct at the end. All right, Maria, 306 Q1. I don't want to brag, but our certification fatal errors are down to 5. On any other given year, I would be jumping for joy, but the truth is I'm a bit concerned. I know that the SPED discrepancy extract and mids are not working. Should I be worried? You are doing exactly what you need to be doing, getting all of the known errors resolved. By the end of the month, we're going to be seeing the CDDs introduced to the system, at which point you're going to have more validations that you're probably going to have to check on and work with. And then as you start working through those, you can review your reports and see if the content is where you need it to be, what you want it to be. And you're right, there are some issues with the anomalies right now that are being worked through. But I wouldn't say you should be worried, because it sounds like you're on top of the data that exists. So you should probably be ready for an influx of new validations when the CDDs are introduced and when anomalies are addressed and displaying correctly. You may need to go back and do some cleanup work there. But I wouldn't say be worried.
Yeah, I'd say you're prepared, Maria. You're ready for what comes next. And there is more.
Oh, yeah. Carol, 306 Q1, can you go over the critical deadlines for free and reduced lunch programs? I think I heard a previous Q&A that applications received by early November should be backdated to start of year if they're approved. Is that the case? If a student shows up on the direct cert list in November, should the start date for that program entry also be backdated to the start of the year? Well, with your direct cert data, well, with all the FRPM data, including direct cert, the window extends to the end of October. So if you receive an application on October 31st and you stamp it received, you can then consider that for inclusion in the in the fall 1 counts. And that's the same reason that November direct cert is gathered, because it summarizes all of October, who got qualified in October for direct cert. So we want to make sure that the people turning in applications are given the same opportunity as the people being direct certified to be counted in those reports. That's why this is one of those data, one of the very, very few data elements that is not reported exactly as of Census Day. It allows the entire month to qualify those students for FRPM programs or to be directly certified.
And Paul, just to be clear, so you can accept an application through October 31st, but you need to make sure that CALPADS program record is backdated to at least October 31st. Because usually what happens, you get application, might take a few days to evaluate it, but once it's confirmed, CALPADS needs to know that the start date was October 31st or before. And for kids who are directly certified, you don't actually have to submit a program record. CALPADS automatically takes any directly certified kids and includes it in report 1.17. So it does that for any kid identified through the November match.
And Paula, I was going to say the same thing, but perhaps she could be local practices is that nutrition services, they do something with the direct cert, and it allows the SIS to generate a program record based on the direct cert activity. I don't know. So Carol, you may want to talk to your nutrition people, and are you creating a program record for your direct cert students, and why? Because it's not necessary, as Paula mentioned, it's duplicate.
Right, and if that program record does happen to come in with a start date that's after October 31st, at least for LCFF purposes and 1.17 report purposes, it kind of doesn't matter because the kid will be there for direct cert anyway. So.
All righty. Moving on to Carol, 307 Q1. Mids are terrifying me. Just combined about a dozen mids, ran the replacement SSID extract, and it shows 60 pages of replacement SSIDs. I hesitate to upload into my SIS. Ran it again, and a new extract shows about 60 replacement SSIDs. What do you think? Does that
report
extract
work?
Well, I was gonna ease into that one, but if I just asking, does that have a date range you're specifying? Because I don't recall.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so maybe check your date range and make sure that you're not looking for a broader range than just today and yesterday or whatever date range that you merge those dozen mids in. Because if you're pulling from a month or two ago through today, you're going to have, a lot of replacement SSIDs, because the way that mids were working and, duplicating SSIDs and making your lives a little bit more difficult. But on the other hand, it may be a problem with the extract itself. And I just haven't heard about it yet.
Yeah, and Carol, you can use the SSID extract, not the replacement SSID extract, just the regular SSID extract. Any of the kept SSIDs in a mid-merge will automatically be in that file.
All righty. Eric, 307 Q1. Can you please guide me to where I can get information why students taking and passing the California High School Proficiency Exam are identified as dropouts, non-grads? When a student passes the test, it proves they know the material and are ready to move to the next level, but this creates non-grads affecting our district. Thanks.
I just posted a link in the chat. Chesapeake grads or completers are not considered dropouts, but they are also not, they didn't meet the definition of a high school graduate at the federal definition, so they are not considered grads. So they don't count towards your dropout count, but they also don't count towards your graduation rate.
Okey-doke. Laura, 303 Q1. So in regards to fall 2, we won't see errors until January 3rd. That's correct. The actual submission will begin displaying and refreshing beginning the 3rd of January. So that's when you're going to see your errors. That's when you're going to see your reports. That's when you're going to see everything that you've uploaded for fall 2 to date be displayed for you.
Although, Paul, can I mention one thing?
Sure.
There's an ODS report 4.3 that, I mean, you should upload your data now and look at that report. It's not a certification report, but it's the data that helps you ensure your data is accurate for assignment monitoring purposes. So we talk about that a bit in the, I think, Flash 241. So that's just a heads up that you can really start working on your fall 2 now, and it's probably a good idea to do so and to review that particular report.
Except for that report's not rendering right now, Paula.
Oh, I thought I saw the known issue got fixed. No.
I think it's coming next week.
Okay, well, when it's ready, hopefully I know we've put a high priority on making sure that report's working.
They are working on it for sure. It's just not out there just yet.
All right, Fabiola, I see your Q2. Melissa, I see your Q2. And A10.
There, Paul, there was a question from Bernardino. I don't know the first part there. I'm unable to enroll my NPS students in CALPADS.
309.
Corrected at 309.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, so I'm just going to call you Bernardino. 309 Q1, I'm unable to enroll my NPS student in CALPADS. When will this be corrected? That's news to me. So
it was a fix that went in yesterday, Paul. So I would say try again today, and if you're still having problems, let us know via a ticket and your job ID.
Thank you. All right, a couple thanks, couple comments, some crosstalk. Marshall posted Flash 241 at 310. Some more crosstalk. Q2. All right, Q1, Christina Becker, 313. I have 8 students that were 4 years old when they started our TK program on 8/11 of this year. I was unable to retrieve an SSID since they were only 4 years old when they started in our TK program. They have now turned 5, and I am still unable to retrieve an SSID for them. In order to now get an SSID, do I need to change their enrollment date to their birth date?
Yes.
Christina also sent in a direct message, just a follow-up to that. She said, I meant to say our students were 3 when they started our TK program, and they are now 4, and I still can get an SSID for them.
Yeah, so you want them to be 4 on their enrollment date. So make those dates match, and that error should clear up for you.
Perfect. Let's see, Suanne, 313, Q1. Is anyone ever going to consider providing us with a modal window or a modal window or report to be able to find E155 students that have no subsequent enrollment in the district, that the E155 students to be changed so they can change the exit codes?
Wasn't that an ERD?
Yeah, it's a loss transfer, ERDC.
So there you go.
But it's kind of like, why do you need to change the exit code?
I would say you should do it just for cleanliness, right? You should know where your students went, and then for students with disabilities, they show up on your monitoring reports. Even you know, you may not have re-enrolled them, but they still show up as you're still accountable for them unless you change that exit code.
Got it.
All right, moving on to Richard, 313 Q1. Having gaps before or after enrollment start date for demographics, language, and programs has usually caused missing ethnicity language students should have some program record in the past. Best practice is keeping all start and effective end dates in alignment in beginnings, which has become much more difficult with the locking of start dates.
I think that was a comment.
And yeah, and it has become more difficult because that use of the enrollment start date as a primary key does cause quite a bit of concern for people because they can't change it and they have to do a lot of dancing around it and changing things and deleting things. So yeah, it did make it a little bit more dicey to resolve those.
And isn't that still in our backlog to discuss, or has that been decided?
I don't think so. You mean letting them change the enrollment start date?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a done deal. We tried,
Okay.
but we didn't get anywhere.
Okay.
And I think I saw somewhere from Stephanie on here from Power School that she can help her LEAs. I think it's Stephanie. Power School when they got out of alignment like that.
Yes, I did see Stephanie comment.
Kyron in 314 posted the link to the SSID extract information. Larney 314 Q1, we have a student that has an SSID that was merged with another student from another LEA. I think the SSID is our student's, but I am not sure. Is there a way to know? I know we have to communicate with the other LEA, but what actually will be done or what needs to take place to resolve this issue? Well, if the SSIDs have been merged, it's a done deal. And you would need to kind of figure out who has the bulk of the correct information and keep that SSID at that school. And whoever has the short end of the stick has to create a new SSID and repopulate it with the most current enrollment, demographic, program, sped if available, information. All the information needs to be repopulated, and then make an attempt to populate any historic data that you have available through a CUME file, which, you know, honestly, after you're recreating the student, as long as you can get it accurate as of today or as of census day, whatever date it is, you're going to be doing well. Trying to get the historical data in there is not easy, and being thorough with it is damn near impossible. Shanna, 314 Q1, can a student enrolled in a traditional high school be concurrently enrolled at an alternative high school for credit recovery?
Richard gives an answer below.
Does he? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have done this. I'm sorry, this is from Richard, responding to the question. Yes, we have done this. Use 10 for the primary enrollment and 20 for the alt school environment or enrollment.
Because you can't have two primaries. That's what's wrong. That would be concurrent, but you also can't claim ADA at two different schools. And that's, you know, a primary and a primary. But if one of the enrollments is secondary, then it's doable. The system will allow it, because when you're in secondary enrollment, you're not getting ADA for that.
Looks like Richard also answered with TA class is usually 6098 and don't report it. And Mary Masters says the TA course course code they use is 9216, so they know it's a TA course. All right, Aaron at 317 Q1. Do we have an estimate on when the CCE reports will be available? Trying to review these is much more difficult without a printout. Thank you.
That was a fix that went in yesterday as well, so should be good to go.
Kyron at 318 posted the LIP start and end date closing guidance. Charlene, 323 Q1. Can we talk about no-show N470 date again? Do we have to enter the exit date one day before the enrollment start date? I believe that the system accepts both. You can, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
thought we changed the validation.
We did not. We still allow but I don't recommend it.
Right.
Use the same date, same exit date as the start date. That way you'll maintain ownership of any other records if you ever have to change anything.
But then it does mean that you have 1 day of enrollment.
No, not for an N470. It nullifies it.
Oh, okay.
So the guidance is use the same enrollment start date and enrollment end date and the N470. So if they started on 8/1 but were a no-show, it would be an 8/1 enrollment start date, an 8/1 enrollment exit date, and an exit code of N470. That's what's expected. All right. Kyron posted the staff demographic staff service years resource and the SAS resource.
Richard agrees with me, or I agree with Richard, so that's good.
Let's see, go down. Kyron, you're just a posting fool today, aren't you? Posting documentation everywhere. Richard Adams, 332 Q2. Can CALPADS please allow current LEA to remove orphaned records when the student enrollments are deleted? They should notify the LEA admin performing this delete that they have subsequent SINF, SELA, SPRG records that they would like to take with them.
Would they like them to take with them?
Yeah.
I like that scenario too. That's a good one. So I just wanted to talk about some cert errors that we're seeing pop up quite a bit, and we're actually talking about it with CDE tomorrow. And I think it has a lot to do with the way the volume of MIDs that new CALPADS creates, right? That's one of the ways you get SSIDs is to create a MID. And if you do that, especially at this time of year when kids are moving around a lot, or beginning of August, September, we're seeing a lot of kids that got brand new SSIDs. So a SINF stub record was created, just as, the bare minimum skeleton of a SINF record. But then maybe the user ended up no-showing the student because the student didn't show up, or they deleted the enrollment because the student didn't show up. Whoever inherits that SSID inherits that SINF stub record too. And so you'll see missing ethnicity errors, you'll see missing US enrollment school start date errors. And as Richard is indicating, you don't have ownership of them. It's the other LEA that either no-showed or deleted their enrollment, but you have cert errors. And so I don't have an answer for you, Richard. I just wanted to talk it through with this group so it is on our radar, and we are going to be talking more about it tomorrow.
Thank you, Angela. All right, that was Richard. All right, Rebecca, 333 Q1. Paul, can you expand on what you meant by CDDs will be introduced into the system at the end of the month? Yes. So the CDDs, the certification data discrepancies, are still being coded for fall 1. And as you'll recall, in end of year, we started out with just the cert errors, all the ones that start with cert, and those were already native to the system as certification errors. The CDDs used to be IVRs, input validation rules, that would have stopped it on its way in, but we're now allowing it in, but it's still a problem. So DDs, data discrepancies, and CDDs are all reporting on this spurious data that's been allowed in that is going to cause problems that you need to then resolve afterwards. The CDDs for fall 1 are being coded and tested right now so we can get them in, and they will be displayed beginning towards the end of the month or early next month. So that way you'll see all of the fuzziness that needs to be cleaned up to make your fall 1 submission LEA approvable. Anybody want to expand on that? Okie dokie.
That was well said, Paul.
Well, thank you. Maria, thank you. Now I'm really worried from her prior comment. Elitania, 304 Q1. Is there a website or list of students where we can get, a foster list? That would be the 5.7, I believe. 5.6 maybe.
5.6, 5.7. The list is 5.7.
Okay, there you go. 5.6 is the count of active foster youth. 5.7 is the student list of active foster youth. 5.8 is the count of former foster youth who are still enrolled at your LEA, and the 5.9 is the list of the former foster youth who are still enrolled at your LEA. So reports 5.6, 7, 8, and 9 are the ones that you'll be concerned with.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about that again. Not that I'm giving Richard preferential treatment today, but he's bringing up some really good points. And it's still about that orphan business where you can't change data that doesn't belong to you. Just a side note, I think Brandy mentioned it last week, but Gary, on the homepage, there's a message about the SSID matching tool. And so if you've been using the MID method for getting SSIDs, and Richards, I don't think you have. I think you said you've been looking yours up individually, but for those of you that have been just sending up a blank SENR file to the file submission screen and resolving your MIDs to obtain SSIDs, the better way now that we have this new tool is to use the SSID matching tool, and you submit the same file, but just to a different area in the system, and it'll give you back a list of up to 20 students, potential students that could be matches. And from there, you can pick the right, hopefully the right SSID, and therefore, avoid a MID altogether. But a lot of those orphan records you're seeing are due to MIDs. Not always, but you can avoid that if you just grab the right SSID from the get, rather than creating a MID and then merging it later.
Perfect, thank you. Looking, it's a lot of conversations and commentary, so I'm down to Terry at 345. Q1, I'm still not seeing ERDs. Is this still a known issue, or am I possibly ERD free? I don't know the status of ERDs right now. No, looks like it's still in sent to developer, so we should probably bump that up to a higher priority, but no, it's the ERDs are still unavailable. Apologize for that. Sue-Ann, see your next one.
I do believe we have a fix for the ERDs coming on Tuesday. I think it's heard from the tester this morning that they're making progress on it.
All right, Rocio at 349. Q1, if a student's grade level is changed or promoted, does the enrollment always need to be updated with a mid-year enrollment grade level update, or can an LEA just change it? It's a local decision, but CALPADS, the big L in CALPADS stands for longitudinal. So we do like to see changes over time. So if the student started out, the year as grade 5 and got mid-year promoted at Thanksgiving, we would like to see that E150 exiting them and then re-entering them on the next calendar day with the new grade level in the enrollment section. That way, it can be seen over time that they had a mid-year promotion instead of just suddenly skipping a year, going from 3rd grade to 5th grade. This provides just a little bit more granularity and more data to analyze, when it does come under the microscope. So if it happens in the first few days of the year, yeah, you could probably change that without, with no problem at all, because the student wasn't in 4th grade for more than a week. But once you get into the term and it's a good portion of the way in, you're going to want to do that E150. Ethan, 349, Q1, the quick trick to correct a student start date of converting the incorrect enrollment to a secondary, adding the correct enrollment with the correct start date, then deleting the old enrollment record is no longer working. Looks like SENR0178 is incorrectly triggering on secondary enrollments now. Is that a known issue? $78.
Probably.
Yeah, because the start date is a primary key or operational key. So you really have to just delete the record and recreate it.
It goes
Okay.
back to having two enrollments at the same school, right? We don't allow it if they're both primary. And so that's why the workaround was to get the correct start date, you add that secondary enrollment, but now we're causing an error on secondary enrollments. So it didn't
Yeah.
used to do that.
I did get that today, and I just didn't get a chance to go back and finish working on that ticket.
I didn't think you could have a secondary enrollment if it's at the same LPA in the same school.
Right, you can't, but
Yeah.
I usually just use the district office. So that's my quick,
Yeah.
Well,
quick
the
workaround.
previous comment said that they were able to do that
In the past, they could
in the
put it.
past. You're right. You're right. It probably has changed. Now we are crossing the 4 o'clock boundary. So anybody who needs to drop off, please feel free. Appreciate you being here. I hope you got something out of it today. We're going to keep pushing through. We're going to address all the Q1s received up to 4 o'clock. Then we'll swing back and hit all the Q2s and above. So thanks for sticking with us if you're going to, and no hard feelings if you're not. We'll see you next time. All right. Rebecca, 349 Q1. If an LEA had a student enrolled for a short time and did not get an ELA record up into the system in time, then the next LEA uploaded theirs for an EO student. Should the second LEA delete their EO so the first LEA can put in their EO in time? In 2 cases so far, the other LEA's enrollment was not during census day and ours is. Therefore, I told the other LEA there was not necessary for them to send up their EO because it wouldn't be doing them any good for fall 1 since we own the student on census day. Was I correct in this aspect, or will they be getting dinged at EOI reporting for missing an ELA record? No, Rebecca, you have it right. If you had the student on census day, you need to get your CELA data in there. And you need to be working with that subsequent LEA to get it in there. And, it's you're asking, but you really do need it. So, you're taking the right approach by using direct communication and using that argument that the student was hours on census day and we're the one getting the error on census day, and it's the same language acquisition status. So it doesn't matter whether we put it up and solve an error or you keep yours there and you create a big problem for us. It's so you're doing the right thing there.
I think, Paul, though, the other person has to also have an ELAS status because, yes, they may not get dinged on census day because they didn't have the kid enrolled, but come EOI, we're going to expect that any student enrolled have a ELAS status.
Yeah, but once they're assigned that EO from the first LEA, then it will carry forward forever with that student. We don't need to put
True, very true. Maybe I got lost at who was first and who was second.
No, what's on second? Logging in late. I'm not sure what lip info link we posted for you, Tracy, at 3:50. Karen, would you look back through the chat log and see what we posted for lip and maybe post it again later?
It's the yeah, I'll post it. It's the
Thank you
start
very
date.
much. Gotcha. Divya at 3:51 Q1. If a 3-year-old student who receives speech services from the county, does the district of residence report the student as a primary enrollment? Or should the district of residence report the student as a primary enrollment?
Doesn't that have to do with what plan they're on or their grade level? Preschool kids are always a certain enrollment status.
It's that students with disabilities reporting matrix that will be described in there. And let's see. Yep, there it is. So on the page that Gary's displaying, that's the reporting data for students with disabilities and the most common scenarios involved. And at the bottom of the screen, all the way down at the bottom, there's an Excel spreadsheet that you can download, so you can actually read it better and keep the headers fixed and sort and use drop downs. It's very convenient. So Gary's going to drop that into the chat box, and that should give you who should be reporting what for that student. Aaron says, so file errors, CDDs, then certification errors. Oh, the input validations that remain, when they trigger, they reject the whole file. So you have to get those IVRs fixed to get the data in, but there are relaxed IVRs that got changed into data discrepancies and certification data discrepancies that at some point we will have either a screen or a report that displays all of your ongoing DDs and CDDs that would need to be resolved for each submission and just problems in general. And then the cert errors are the native errors that were initially associated to the submission, fall 1, fall 2, end of year 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it was. So yeah, you have to get through your input errors. And then right now you can only be working on your cert errors, your certification errors. And at the end of the month, the CDDs should be introduced and you can start working through those. I love how you guys just chat back and forth and answer your questions as often as we do. Angela, just so you know, Sue Ann believes that you are the wings, that you are her hero and are the wind beneath her wings. Just FYI. All right. Okay, I think that was it on original questions. I'm going to circle back to the top right now and start hitting our Q2s and above. And the first one is at 302 from Angela. Angela 302. There it is. Are there any updates on when the age-related validations will be adjusted for this SENR0262 and SENR005 or SINF0059, specifically for TK students younger than 4 at the time of their enrollment start date?
We are still waiting for an opinion from our program office, so there is no time right now.
All right. Moving on to Karen at 305. Karen, Q2 305. I noticed today that our foster youth data has not been updated since 9/28. It's usually refreshed weekly. Should I put in a ticket on this?
I saw that too. Paula, have you heard anything when that next foster file's coming?
No, I thought I saw one got uploaded and I haven't seen any email saying that there was a problem. So I'll check.
Okay, thank you.
Fabiola, Q2 at 309. 3 students have a no-show enrollment at another LEA after my LEA's active enrollment. They were not being counted in the 1.1, 1.2 reports and have a Cert 4 error. I created a second enrollment after the no-show date. This corrected the enrollment issue in reports 1.1 and 1.2, but it did not correct the Cert 4 error. Do you have any suggestions on how to clear that Cert 4?
Need to see it.
Yeah. Fabiola, please put in a service desk ticket on there detailing the SSID we're talking about so we can kind of dig around in there and see what we see. All right, Melissa at 310. Q2, is there a way to have CALPADS generate Fall 2 certification reports or revisions, but not have the certify button available until January? The reports are very helpful.
Not at this time, Melissa.
Sue Ann 320 Q2. There are a lot of districts who have not closed their LIP records for students no longer enrolled. Will that have an impact of any kind?
Shouldn't, because if they don't enroll, then we don't look at those records. I think the problem happens if they re-enroll elsewhere in the district.
And going down to Carla at 322. Q2, can the priority for problem number 6082, the 4.3 ODS report not rendering, be set to high? I am trying to run the report for fall 2 and it will not render. I have already submitted all the fall 2 files.
It's in the queue, right?
It
Angela
is,
mentioned.
yeah. It's already, although it doesn't
We already
say
raised
resolved.
the priority.
Yeah, it doesn't say resolved, but so it didn't make my list that I shared at the start of the call, but the tester said he is testing it. So I am expecting that one on Tuesday.
So Carla, while the known issues list didn't get updated, that we moved it higher in the queue. That's what we ended up doing, recognizing it was important.
When Paula
for
said
folks.
she was putting it on the flash, we went, oh.
Got to get this working.
Yeah, I thought we'd beat the flash, but I guess not.
No, unfortunately not. I think the developer ran into a problem with that.
Oh, okay.
All right, at 3:48, Sue Ann's Q3. Is there documentation that direct certs do not require program record to be submitted in the SPRG?
I posted the FAQ later on. Answers no, you don't need an FRPM record for DC students.
And just to be completely clear, if you do a local direct certification, obviously that would need a program record, but not for the statewide match.
Correct. And that luckily is also covered in that FAQ.
Yay, we were comprehensive for once.
All right, and my last Q2 and above was 3:57 with Rebecca. It reads Q2, Paul, I'm confused about what you said about an N470 being start date and end date is the same. So do you mean that either that or the exit date being before the start date, which is what I thought we should always use for a no-show, since the start date equal to end date means 1 day of enrollment? Or is it only if there's an N470 exit code, then it nullifies? That's the accurate statement. It's when you use, let's just say you wanted to say that they started on 8/1 and then they transferred on 8/1. So 8/1 and 8/1, but with the T160 exit code, that shows that they were there for a day and then they left. But if you say they're on 8/1, ended on 8/1 with an N470, it says they were never there, no show. And previous to this, we had advised use the day before the enrollment start date and it'll work out. And that was because of some of the wonkiness in legacy CALPADS that IBM left, that it wouldn't recognize that nullification unless you place that date, the end date prior to the start date. So since that time, the system matured a bit and it recognizes that when the dates match and there's an N470, that student was never really there.
I would add though, Paul, some of it was SIS activity, that there are some SISs that the only way to indicate a no-show is you have to have it the day before the enrollment. And so CALPADS needed to accommodate that is the real world that some LEAs experience, that they have a end date before the start date to represent a no-show. And then you have other SISs that allow the same day and mark them as a no-show. So CALPADS had to accommodate both of those scenarios.
Okie doke. Thank you for that. The institutional memory kicking in there for us.
I was just thinking that, Paul, like, wow, Martha's memory is solid.
Not quite.
All right, we are 15 minutes past our scheduled end time. We've lost a few people, but I want to thank you for being here today. Always a lot of good questions. Hopefully next week we'll have a full house of Brandy and Joe and Alex and everybody back. And if you need something between now and then, don't hold on to it. Put in a service desk ticket and we will try and get back to you as quickly as we can. And have a great week between now and then. I'll talk to you later.